Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. I'm Peter Lojak. Today is Friday, February 3rd. This is the Into the Weekend with BetDSI show for Super Bowl 51. We are going to wrap up our 2-week-long Super Bowl coverage with maybe the most interesting show of all, the Sharp Action Report from BetDSI and, of course, the Public Action Report. Brent from BetDSI, thanks so much for doing this with us one final time.
Yeah, it's kind of bittersweet today. I mean, because on one hand, it's always a pleasure to speak to you, and on the other hand, I probably won't talk to you again until as we head into football season next year. So, I'm kind of torn here, Peter.
That's right, but no March Madness. You might do some March Madness stuff, maybe.
If you twist my arm, I guess.
Okay, all right, but then CFL maybe or no or yeah.
Probably
no
not.
CFL. All right, so we have Super Bowl 51, Brent, and the first thing I want to ask you, just if you can confirm this or not, the Super Bowl is one clear sporting event in the year where public action absolutely dwarfs sharp action, and that the public action is actually what drives the line moves and not the sharp action. Is that correct, or is that actually not quite true?
Yeah, I mean, depending on, obviously, if you're public and your sharps are going the same way, then you've got a problem, and you're moving based on everything. But we took a look at the college football championship, and that was a very similar situation. That we had a ton of public money one way. Sharps ended up being on Alabama, but the public just kept on pounding the heck out of Clemson. You saw that line. I mean, it did go, I believe. I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, but I think it was like 6.5, 15 or whatever, down to 6, and then back up to 6.5. It was back and forth, and the money taking it back down was all public money down Clemson. So that was one of those rare cases where the public money, because it was such a big game, did kind of come and play and dwarf the sharp money. And then this game, you're bang on in terms of the fact that your chart can be way one-sided regardless of what the sharps are playing, and the sharps can go one way and your line could be the other way, and you're like, well, why are you with the sharps? Told you which the right side was. Yeah. But what it comes down to is this is just one game, and again, sharps being sharps, even if they hit like 58%, they're ecstatic with what kind of season that is, but 58% means you lose a whole lot of games, and this is just one game, so you don't want to really expose yourself too much on one game.
Yeah. All right. So when I saw this line came out, my predictions, which have turned out to be relatively true, was that I thought that the spread wouldn't move much. I thought that there'd be big action on both sides because, of course, the public always loves to bet the Pats. But the Falcons have looked so great this year with such an explosive offense that I thought they would get equal action on the other side. And I did think, especially because we saw a total in this range in the championship game that went over, that the line would get bet up, and it has sort of gotten bet up. It's up to like 58.5 or 59. Some books are still holding up 58. So let's start with the side. I'm assuming there's huge action on this one in terms of the public action, and that it's mostly split. And actually, I would guess there hasn't been much sharp action to speak of as yet. I could be way off on both those counts, though. What can you tell us about the side, Brent?
Yeah, if I'm looking just at my straight bets, it is very one-sided on New England side.
Really?
Almost 3-1 that way. So I've got heavy action one way in terms of New England. Now, when I flip over to parlays and teasers and stuff like that, sitting Atlanta +3, you throw in a teaser getting like 9.5 or 10, whatever it is. So it kind of evens up a bit when I look at the parlays and teasers and straights all combined as one whole basket of goods. But it's still, even then, it's still about 1.5 times in favor of New England. So I definitely have a lot more wagers on New England. Like I said, almost 3 times as many in terms of the actual number of individual wagers I've taken. When I count my money, it does come down to about 1.5 times. And lo and behold, I do have sharp money on Atlanta, Peter. I took sharp money, and this is a max wager on this game at +3, -105 at Atlanta, and I'm still offering +3, -105 on Atlanta because I got so much money one-sided on New England at -3, -115. Now I know you look out the market. There's some books that are 3 flat. Some of them are 3 dog 15, even like New England -3, -05. But I mean, for me, they've always pounded the heck out of New England, and they're going to do it this game as well. So we are sitting 3 -115, and we still need Atlanta, even though the sharp money came in on that side.
All right, so then it sounds like it's roughly pretty evenly balanced then for you, and you're relatively happy with the action. You've got a little bit lopsided action in favor of the Pats, but that it's not too terrible, right?
Yeah, but the only issue is all those public guys who haven't played this game yet. We kind of have an indication of, at least in this house, where they're probably going to go. And the other thing too is, I've only got one. All season long we had a list guys. Were about 10 or 12 guys, and only one of them are on the side so far. So if one of those guys came on New England, we'd be scrambling.
Yeah. All right. So it's not unlike the college football championship game. It's the jury still might be out on notable sharp action. Only one guy has come in on Atlanta, and it's possible that some could come in on New England by kickoff, right?
Yeah, I mean anything is possible, of course. But I mean, like I said, the guy who played Atlanta +3 -5, definitely this guy, one of the sharpest guys there are, and a max wager bet. Like
Okay.
it's not if he played a half unit or anything like that. He pulled the trigger.
All right. Now let's talk about the total, which has gotten bet up in most places, but there are still some places holding firm at 58.5, and some places still holding firm at 58, which is pretty curious. The market as of Friday seems to be a bit uncertain on where the total should be. First of all, I'm assuming the public is all over the over here, and what's been driving that number up? Is that public action, or were there actually sharps involved on the total?
Well, I mean, in store here, I mean, I'm sitting at 59, and I've got I got almost twice as much money on the over, and my wager count is almost 2-1 favoring the over as well. And for me, it's just a case of having a good feel, I guess you want to say, on your customer base. And I'm pretty sure that my guys are going to bet a game like this. They're going to bet the favorite. They're going to bet the over, and lo and behold, they're betting the favorite and they're betting the over. So I'm sitting at 59, and I've still got a lot more money on the over. Now, two different sharp guys have come in on this game. One list guy, one we'll call pseudo sharp. The first hit was under 59. Another guy came in at 58.5. So, I know if you look out there are some guys at, some stores that are still 58.5, some are 58, and I'm using 59. I've got sharp action on the under, and I'm still getting a ton more bets on the over.
Wow. All right. So those two guys are both pseudo sharp guys, or one of them's a list guy and one of them's a pseudo sharp guy?
One of each.
One of each. All right. Okay. So slight lean to the under. And again, I'm assuming that that if there was any sharp guy who wanted to bet the over, they would have hit it early because they knew the line was going to go up, right?
Yeah, I would expect so. I mean, it's crazy. Like you look at this Super Bowl, and it's the Super Bowl. We're sitting at a total of 59. But I mean, if we go back a couple of weeks, the Atlanta Green Bay game, we're looking at the total and saying, "Wow, I mean, have you ever seen such a high number?" And of course, they put up 65 points. So what do we know?
All right, so moving back to the spread for a second, I have a question for you. It's a little bit of a unique situation, I think, because the spread, of course, opened on a key number and hasn't moved off it, and I'm assuming it's going to close here. If the game actually does land on 3, will that be will that be bad for you, good for you, or basically a nothing?
Yeah, it wouldn't be terrible for us, and it definitely wouldn't be good for us because you're figuring that parlays teasers both ways on the side are going to cash. Now again, they've got to get the total right, and who knows how that's going to land. So you figure wouldn't be the best situation for sure. Ideally, of course, if one team blowing out the other team is usually a good result for us. I mean, again, flipping back to a couple of weeks ago, that Atlanta Green Bay game, although the total cash and that people were all over the over and the teasers and straight bets, but the fact that Atlanta basically blew Green Bay out of the water, that crushed a whole lot of teasers. So we definitely would favor a wide margin of victory by either one of these teams. And landing on 3, no, not devastating, so much because so much of that action is going to push at the 3. But it would kind of be like disappointing, just the whole build up, and you figure you got the right number in terms of 3 working. I mean, we basically opened up 3 -115, and we've basically stayed there. So we haven't had to move, which is a great situation in terms of bookmaking perspective. And that the less you have to move a number, the better off you are in terms of your whole percentage.
Yeah. All right. So is it fair to say that that you're roughly rooting for an under and one team to blow the other team out?
Yeah, and with my heart, I'm going to say I'm rooting for Atlanta to beat that team.
Yeah, all right. And then let me ask you about what happens if the Pats win by 1 or 2, and so they don't cover the spread, but Atlanta covers but doesn't win the money line. Would that be a particularly good result for you?
Moneyline, we're really split right now. So it's throughout the playoffs, we've basically seen a whole lot of money line action on dogs. This game here, because the money line's only like 155 or 160, around that range. We haven't had a really big decision one way or the other, so we're pretty balanced on the money line. So Atlanta winning, New England by 1 wouldn't be disastrous either, simply because I got good two-way action on the money line.
All right. So then, and it also sounds like because there hasn't been much line movement in terms of off the 3, that there's no real disaster scenario that could happen that would be bad for Vegas or bad for you guys or anything like that, right?
No, I don't think so. Even if it was, New England won by 3 and it went over, it wouldn't, it wouldn't be great for us. But no, I mean, we're in a good spot.
Okay, sounds good. So now let's move on to props. Props, of course, can be one of the most profitable ways to bet the Super Bowl, and of course, a very fun way to bet the Super Bowl, entertaining way to bet the Super Bowl as well. I'm assuming that you have taken a lot of notable sharp action on props as of right now, or is that not the case either? But every year you do take a bunch of sharp action on the props, right?
Yeah, we definitely have guys who are all season long who play props. I mean, there's a few guys who are just like I would say there's probably I'm going to say about 4 or 5 accounts who are just like things like team to score first, player props, over under in terms of your receiving yards, passing yards, completions, all that kind of stuff. There's guys who are just really, really good at that stuff.
All right, so what have they taken so far?
Well,
Tell us.
Just on the game itself, I'm not involving either of the teams in terms of any of the props like that. The first score of the game, I did take sharp action on the field goal safety being the first score of the game. That was plus 180, so that was a sharp bet there. The team who scores last wins the game. That was a no was a sharp bet there at plus 180 as well. That's kind of figuring that maybe it won't be a close game where you're down to the wire and the last team to score wins. So that was plus 180 there. A field goal prop, the field goals in the game over 3.5 minus 105. That was also a sharp play. And another one that is kind of surprising was the game. I would kind of coincide with the sharp action that we had with the under and the total. We had the alternate total at 70.5, and one of the sharp guys laid minus 360 on that.
Wow.
Now, this is kind of interesting because I just want to note that a lot of these, when we've got the alternate spreads and alternate totals and stuff like that, you've got the minus 7.5 plus 195 on New England. Well, you typically get a whole lot of money on the plus. Whatever the plus is, people are going to bet. So the fact that the shark guy bet the under and laid the 360 is quite telling. I think that price right now is like minus 450. So it's moved almost like 90 cents. Well, it's moved like 90 cents in his favor. So that looks like a sharp bet there. And again, like I say, it kind of coincides with the game total, the action we've seen so far. So those are a couple things that I have on the game itself.
Right. So people are expecting field goals, and they bet a sharp guy bet the over on field goals, and also that the first score is not a touchdown.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, well, the first score being a field goal or a safety. Yeah, and again, like the field goals being over, the alternate total being under 7.5, this stuff like that. Maybe you can't really read. You can't read directly into this prop action and say, wow, this looks like this game's going under based on all this kind of stuff. And again, it's one game. The sharps can get it wrong. They get it wrong. 40-45% of the time, whatever it is. But it's just this kind of interesting. I thought that the alternate total was played under, the field goals was played over. So more field goals, fewer touchdowns is kind of, you can, if you want to draw a line between two things, you can kind of correlate those two if you wanted.
Sure. And are there any player props that any sharp action came in on, like under yards for Julian Edelman or something like that?
Yeah, because you mentioned Edelman, I do have his receptions under 7.5 plus 115. That was a sharp bet. Now, these guys, it's tough with these New England receivers. You take a look at, like Hogan last time he was out, he just blew things up, and Edelman, you just never know. But he's kind of around that range often, but under 7.5 plus 115 on Edelman was sharp. Now, I find this kind of interesting in that the running back situation with New England with Lewis and White and Blunt. What I got is the rushing yards for Lewis under 41.5 minus 115. That came in as a sharp play. I also got White under 39.5 minus 115. That's his rushing and receiving. So that's the rushing and receiving combined for White, under 39.5 minus 115. A second sharp came in on the exact same thing with White, under 38.5 minus 120. So two on that. And again, that's the rushing and receiving yards. And then with Blunt, you got his rushing attempts under 15.5 minus 125. So it could be that you lose one of those and win the other two, or maybe you just figure they're going to spread it out so much that all three of those guys are going to go under because they're going to be involved in the game. The Tom Brady, whether he'll throw an interception, I have the no at minus 150 on that. Again, tying into the under things here, we've got Amendola under 20.5 minus 135 in terms of his receiving yards. The only real things I have over was Brady's completions over 24.5. That was minus 110. And it's interesting with Hogan, I got his receptions under 4.5, laying minus 115. Yet we got his receiving yards over 59.5 plus 110. So again, that could be a situation where he picks up 3 or 4 receptions, but breaks one for a long one. So you kind of cash in both of those maybe. But most of that stuff in terms of Edelman, Amendola, the running backs, all that basically stuff was kind of like tied to the under, which kind of again not reading into things too much, but that kind of ties to the under of the game. So that's some of the Patriots stuff I have.
Yeah, and but did you get stuff on the Falcons as well, or is that we're moving on to now, or did it not come in?
Yeah, we got that as well. I just wanted to catch my breath.
Oh, yes, excellent. No, catch your breath. And now tell us about the notable sharp action that you took on the Pats. I'm going to guess maybe completions for Matt Ryan under at 26.5 was a sharp play. Maybe.
Did you play that yourself, Peter?
I did, yes.
Okay, so Ryan's completions under 26.5, under even money. That was sharp, Peter. You're bang on there. Yeah, and that's not just making this stuff up. And we didn't plan this either. But yeah, Ryan's completions under 26.5, even money. Yeah, that was a sharp play.
There you
go. I don't know if you laid even money, but the sharp guy did.
Mm-hmm.
We also have his attempts. So we had that under 38.5, minus 115 as a sharp play. On the receiving end of that, Sanu, his receptions, the first bet came in on the under 4.5, minus 140. We moved to 4 and got another sharp bet on the under 4, minus 115. And then going over to the running backs with Atlanta, I got Freeman's rushing attempts under 13.5, minus 115. And then we have a prop with his rushing and receiving yards combined. Sharp prop guy bet that under 91.5, minus 115. And the same thing with Coleman. We got sharp action on his rushing attempts under 10.5, minus 115, and his rushing and receiving combined under 65.5, minus 115. So again, don't read too much in this stuff, but a lot of that stuff is tied to the under if you want to look at it that way. One of the player versus player matchup that we have with receiving yards, we did have Julio Jones minus 4.5, minus 120 over Edelman. So that's something to consider as well.
Wow. All right. Are there any other notable props from the rest of the slate that you think are noteworthy?
No, I think I pretty much covered. Oh, both teams. The penalties. We got one guy who, again, these guys are just good at this stuff. And
sure.
I don't kind of make sense why, but the Patriots penalties under 6, minus 145, and also bet the Falcons penalties under 6, minus 130.
Yeah, Brent, they use the Poisson distribution to find value with stuff like that.
If you say so, Peter.
Yes, that's what they use. All right, Brent from BetDSI. I don't know how to emphasize this enough. We really, really love and appreciate all the information you give us. Thanks so much for giving us your time every week, and thanks especially for all this great information on Super Bowl 51. And we'll talk to you next year again, maybe for CFL, but probably not. Probably just for the start of NFL and college football. Brent from BetDSI. Thanks so much.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.